Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Seconds. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland, this is for you.
What's going on, Cavs fans? Welcome to another episode of The Block, The Shot, The Stop, a Cleveland Cavaliers podcast brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. He's Kevin Lynch. I'm Skylar Webker. And Kevin, we're here to talk about the playoff-bound Cleveland Cavaliers. After tonight's game against the Heat, they officially clinch a playoff spot, which doesn't mean anything because we knew this team was going to be a playoff team. But
I was going to say, in case anyone was worried about it,
it's still fun to see the X next to their name when you look at the standings.
Sure. And it's fun to be the first one to have the X in front of their names. So
it is. So we are down to 20 games left. We are 52-10. An incredible home record of 29-4. So you feel good. You feel good about bringing a playoff series to Cleveland with that type of record. That's the type of season that they're having. You feel good about that.
Yeah, you do. It's funny. I was thinking because sometimes, when they win so much, this is their third win streak of at least 12 games. Wild. It's like, yeah, how do you dress up this pig another way and talk about it, right? Like, so I was thinking, like, it's so hard to be a pessimist at this team because I'm good at pessimism if I allow myself to be. And like, if you wanted to be, you could say like, it's really annoying to give up a 7-point lead to this Heat team that's missing like four key players, 3 of them starters, I think. But like, how do you even get mad about that? Because they kind of had a poor closeout to the half and then the start the third quarter that let Miami kind of back in the game to the point that they took the lead, and then they come back around and find another a way to win. Again, they have win streaks of 15, 12, and then again 12. That's like it's 39 wins in worth of win streaks.
I don't think we'll get there, but it'd be great if like just in win streaks we hit what our over under was for the season. I think we need like 10 more games 10 more games.
8. It was 47.5.
Okay. 8 more.
So
games.
No, you're right. No, 9 to break it. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and shout out to the Miami Heat, continue to be the most annoying team in the NBA. Sans maybe the Atlanta Hawks. But like, if you had told me this Cleveland team, who's been far and away the best team in the Eastern Conference, played another Eastern Conference team that was down 4 starters, and it ended up being a super competitive game that the other team almost won for no good reason, I'd be like, oh, it was the Heat. Like, because it's just the kind of team they are. They, and I say it, I'm saying it tongue in cheek, but I say it with a whole heck of a lot of respect and admiration for them. They're the ultimate just find a way to be competitive franchise. And, they literally took on far and away the best team in the East, down 4 starters, and had a lead in the fourth quarter of this game.
Yeah, I mean that's just good coaching. That's just good culture. Yeah. So they really have what a lot of other franchises envy. Spoelstra is a great coach. They have that, like you said, just grind it out, find a way to win, will yourselves to win mentality, which just comes with the culture that franchise has set, the Heat culture.
Yeah, and after a really rough start to the season, Bam Adebayo's been really good for going on like 4 or 5 weeks now. He always maintains being a high level defender, but his offense was really suspect for the first, 3 months or so of the season. But I went back and looked at some of his stats and some of his highlights, and he's been really good for a few weeks and was really, really good tonight.
Very good tonight. What was he, 34 and 12?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's getting it done.
Yeah. He gave our big guys fits, which is something we're gonna get into. If I could throw out the first topic of the game, because you brought it up in the text and I was thinking about it too. Just the seems like the more and more they're going away from Jared Allen in these tight games. I think this is like the 4th tight game in a row. Sorry, I'm not including you yesterday, Bulls. Where they went away from Jared Allen in the 4th quarter for sometimes for the entire 4th quarter, or at the very least the home stretch of the game. This is not what I was anticipating when they got DeAndre Hunter. I thought DeAndre Hunter was going to be the 5th guy with the big 4. I didn't think he would be taking Allen out of the lineup and keeping Strus in. Like, what are kind of your thoughts about it? And again, this is not like a criticism or anything. This is just a pretty obvious observation that has me curious if this is going to continue into the playoffs as far as rotations go.
I was telling my wife the same thing, but and right when I sent it in the group chat, like, this is not what I expected to happen when they got DeAndre Hunter. Like,
Right.
I didn't expect them. Like, I expected it to squeeze Strus out of those final minutes, but instead it's squeezing Allen out, which is working. But yeah, like, that was not something that we intended at all. Which is a different wrinkle, a different attack, but I don't know. Tonight it seemed like Bam was giving Jared Allen lots of trouble.
Yeah. He was giving him some trouble, but Bam was kind of giving everybody trouble. And I didn't think the answer was going away from that. They kept running cross screens when only Mobley was in the game. They ran so many cross screens to end up with the matchup of Strus on Bam. And that's not a good matchup for the Cavs. And I just did some quick math. I'll find out if I'll find out if it's for sure true, but it looks like Max Strus averages more minutes per game than Jared Allen since the DeAndre Hunter trade, which is not something I would have expected.
That is not something I would have expected either. Yeah, you're right. Tonight, 26 minutes Strus, 25 minutes Jared Allen.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I understand if you're in a tight game, you want your best shooters on the floor. Totally understand that. But to go completely away from Jared Allen, just kind of saying, like, you have to make these shots because there's only one big to go clean up the rebounds. It's a risk, but so far it's been paying off.
Yeah, I mean, and this is nitpicky. This is not what I intended to go, but it is really interesting. And so I would ask the question, like, if you're going for an all more offense, more shooting lineup, like, is Strus the best option? If you're going to put somebody in instead of Jared Allen, would it be a Dean Wade or like, I kind of think, or a Ty Jerome possibly, because I think if you're going to do this a little bit more athletic, a little bit more shooting lineup than Jared Allen, to me it actually makes sense to have Dean Wade be the 5th guy instead of Max Strus. I think he shoots it as well as Max, and he plays a lot better. Max, again, contributes in a lot of ways, but Dean Wade is a better defender, better rebounder, and like about as good a shooter, I would say. But might be splitting hairs between the two. But yeah, I don't know. I find it really interesting because now, like, the problem that you thought you were solving by bringing in DeAndre Hunter still kind of exists, because then you end up with Strus on other teams' really good wings defensively, and you still end up with Mitchell or Garland on like a bigger guard or something like that. So I don't know. I find it I find it very interesting, but again, it could be something. It could be as simple as the Cavs have been the best team in the regular season, and they're running away with the number 1 seed, and Kenny Atkins is at the point where he wants to just try different things.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time to try. I mean, we've seen a lot of different lineups lately, especially now that everybody's back and healthy and playing. We've seen a lot of different lineups lately where it's, Ty Jerome, Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley. Like, that's a lineup that gets thrown out there. Or you sub out Okoro for Strus. I think Kenny's just got a lot of different weapons at his disposal. And for the first time in a while, he has all of them to pick and do something with, change rotation minutes, do something different with.
Yeah, I think that's true. I do think since Strus has come back, I think it's become pretty evident that Kenny prefers him to a lot of the other guys. He wants to play everyone and everything, but it does seem like Strus, he's now kind of solidified himself in the starting lineup. Some of that was because of injuries and everything, and he pretty much always plays the stretch run in the fourth quarter and everything. So to me, it seems like Kenny's been pretty adamant that Strus is one of his, if not his most preferred role player out of all these guys outside of the big four.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be. I think Strus hits enough clutch shots, especially lately. He's been hitting them at a good clip to justify that. You do have to wonder how long that leash is, and then how long that leash will be if he does start to struggle, especially starting to struggle in a playoff series where, you don't have an 82 game window to figure it out. You have 4 at minimum 4.
Yeah, it was just, and all that's to say, I was hoping last game that you and Tim talked about, that I got to see in person, against the Bulls. I was hoping that was a Jared Allen kind of like rebound game, because his playing time had gone down. Some of his numbers had gone down recently, and that kind of has happened a time or two throughout the season. But then he was so good against the Bulls a couple of nights ago. Like, that was the best Jared Allen game we've seen in quite a while. And I was kind of hoping he'd come back with another, 15 and 12 type of game tonight. And, wasn't meant to be, but all that's to say, the Cavs won again tonight. We definitely shouldn't be all down everything. It's just like, that was the number one thing on my mind. When you don't have a ton of things to like criticize with the team, and I guess the biggest thing that came out of this game is like, wow, they really are, putting like having Jared Allen ride the pine in the fourth quarter of these close games, and the guy who's getting the more minutes than I expected him to is Strus.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally fair, totally warranted. I don't want to say criticism, but observation.
Yeah, it's not criticism.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, it's Kenny's job to figure that out.
Yeah, no, for sure. And all this to say, Strus didn't have a bad game. I wouldn't say it was an amazing game tonight, but he didn't have a bad game. He shot the ball pretty decent. He played fine defensively. I mean, the only time he didn't, his biggest challenge defensively was they kept forcing matchups with him on Bam, and again, that's just not a good matchup for him. That was kind of why I was like, they wouldn't have been able to do that if Jared Allen's in the game instead of Strus. Like, they wouldn't have, but as it is, like, he was really good. And I guess the biggest problem with the Cavs is everyone keeps playing somewhere between good and great. And so, like, they're not making it easy on how to distribute the minutes. No one's like running away with like playing so well they have to be in the lineup all the time, and no one's like kind of playing themselves out of the lineup either.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the good problems to have. That's what a championship team kind of is built on, is everybody playing their best in their career or best style of ball all together, all in the same time. They're all working for each other. So that's like the best thing that could happen right now.
Yeah, it is. The other topic, and we'll get into the individual games that the guys had and everything. I do find it interesting, Kenny, for the most part, they continue to like not do nearly as much resting players for games as the rest of the league does. Now we've talked about it a ton. Kenny's strategy is play guys less minutes per game and then have them sit out less full games, right? But I am wondering if as the 1 seed becomes more and more solidified, like if that's going to slow down. I was kind of surprised they didn't have one guy sit out for rest on the latter end of a back to back.
Yeah, we thought maybe it would be Garland that would sit out tonight's game. Tim and I talked about like, well, is it Garland going to sit out? Is it Jared Allen's going to sit out? I don't think Jared Allen. I don't think you could get him to sit out. I think he wants the Iron Man 82 game season. Like he wants to get 82 games in this year. And I think that's important to him. So I was surprised that at least Garland didn't sit out, especially once you saw the injury report with all their guys missing. I mean, thankfully they didn't sit out because they won and needed all these guys to be here. But I was curious why for that. And maybe it's, hey, let's just get this win, get the clinch so that it's out of the way. And then we can start, put it on cruise control.
Yeah, maybe. I thought it might have started this week when they rested Mitchell on Sunday and then Evan last night. I thought that might be rotation. I thought they might like start resting some of these role players, particularly the ones that are injury prone. Hunter, Wade, Okoro, even Strus a little bit is injury prone. I thought they might start rotating those guys is more rest. But I do think Kenny's strategy is reduce minutes instead of reduce games. And you could see Wade and Okoro only played 11 and 10 minutes tonight. And my guess is that was by design, that on a back-to-back, those guys that have been injured for a good part of the year, they'll play, but we're going to reduce their minutes quite a bit.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a great strategy, right? Like these guys get to play with each other every night. You build that teamwork, continuity, chemistry every night. And then, you just keep your minutes low. You don't Tibbs it. My favorite joke was that Tim said at the beginning of the year that when Josh Hart was in the 6 Man of the Year conversation, he's like, I'm surprised that the Knicks have a 6 Man of the Year candidate. That Tibbs thought that they had more than 5 guys or allowed to use more than 5 guys.
Yeah, he had no idea. He had no idea that you were allowed to substitute. Yeah, but it's interesting, right? Because I talked about like how I thought Dean Wade would kind of make sense to play more of a role, especially if Jared Allen's minutes are being reduced. And looking through some of his game stuff, like tonight was the first time he played less than about 15, 16 minutes since he came back from injury a few weeks ago. So like, and this is he played 20 minutes Sunday, 20 minutes last night, and then they dropped him down to 11 tonight. Similar story with Okoro. He was 20 last night, now he's 10 tonight. So I don't know, like, I guess we'll find out. I mean, so far so good, but maybe this will be the new inefficiency in the NBA is to load manage instead of sitting out whole games every as a whole game every couple weeks. Maybe you play the majority of the games, but you just dial back minutes, especially with guys who've proven to be a little bit more injury prone.
And it feels like the right call, just beyond the Cavs and everything like that. Just, as far as the league, they're really trying to crack down on the load management piece for guys that just never play and then just show up for the playoffs. So I think this is good for the league because then you see the stars of the league play. You see, the teams kind of work together instead of the years that we've been privy to where like, I don't really remember Kawhi Leonard playing at all in Toronto until the playoffs. I don't remember any of the big three in Brooklyn ever playing together.
Yeah.
For substantial different reasons, but
It was something like 110 minutes that they were all on the court together in Brooklyn.
right.
Zach Lowe used to say the exact number. That's the only reason I know it. But no, it's really, really funny. Yeah, no, maybe. And again, like I'm sure he'll rest guys for full games as we come down the stretch of the season for the playoffs and everything. But like at least for now, this seems to be a strategy is just reducing minutes rather than reducing games. And so far, so good. I mean, like knock on wood, we have had virtually the whole team available for going on close to a month now, about three weeks now. And it was since the All-Star break actually.
Yeah.
And hopefully it stays this way because this team, when everyone's available, they can play so many different ways. Not only are they like just really good. I mean, you have teams that are really good, but they're really good by doing X, Y, and Z. Like the Cavs can do when they have their whole roster, like every letter in the alphabet, like just with the different ways they play, the different combinations they play, the different schemes they can play, the different defenses they can play. It's just, I don't know. It's really fun when they got their whole roster.
I agree. And I wonder, like last piece on like the rest part, I wonder if Kenny's looking, obviously he's scoreboard watching like the rest of us. But if there ever gets to where Boston's the day game or plays the night before, that's when and say they lose, that's when he's, all right, we can pull back. We have the 8-game lead. They lost, so we can pull back on minutes, pull back on whatever, just to keep that, because as we've iterated many times, the number one seed means way more to Cleveland than any other team.
Well, and I'm officially ready to say the 1 seed is done, and Kenny can start doing that now because like, if you start doing the math, like if Boston goes crazy and goes 18-2 the last 20 games of the year, the Cavs need to go 500, 10-10 just for them to catch them. Like the Cavs aren't going 10-10 down the stretch, especially if the games matter. Like, so the race for the 1 seed is done. I think Boston knows it's done. I think they're going to start, acting that way and probably be even more intentional about resting their guys than the Cavs are. So, so yeah, all that's to say, I guess we could talk about the game for a little bit today. My analysis of the game, like I was way more interested. I'm way more interested in like things I'm seeing in the games that could, impact the Cavs like down the road in the playoffs and everything. But as far as tonight game, my analysis is pretty simple. They shot the ball really well in the first quarter, got a decent lead. Shot the ball poorly in the second and third quarters, and then shot the ball well again in the fourth quarter and was able to pull it out that way. So basically shot poorly in the middle of the game and shot well to start it and end it.
Hey, at least we got off to a good start versus keep falling behind, because that was the theme of the last couple of games, is falling behind and not being and just pulling it out at the end. But yeah, like it really was using that momentum at the start of the game, because if you look at the quarter by quarter, I mean the first quarter is the only one where we actually created any distance. I mean, in the second quarter, 27-27, third quarter, 23-23, fourth quarter, 25-26. Like we basically matched scoring the rest of the game. So you needed that little bit of space, even though it was only 4 points, needed that little bit of space just to, kind of get it out of here.
But that second quarter in particular doesn't tell the story. The Cavs with 3:19 to go in the second quarter had a 17-point lead, 60-43. Then somehow the Heat closed it to a 3-point game by halftime. Yep. And then they basically played each other to a stalemate in the third quarter, as you said. And then they finally kind of took care of business a little bit there in the fourth quarter. But yeah, I mean, tonight was like a professional win, not their best game in any way, shape, or form, but they made enough plays and they responded to the adversity of giving up a good lead in a game that you thought you might run away with, to make sure that they did pull out a win and continue this win streak where, a lot of times that can go sideways. You lose momentum that drastically in a game like they did. That can be hard to come back from, but the Cavs did.
Yeah, I feel like nothing ever phases these Cavs, whether it's, blowing a lead, whether it's getting 25-3 on you. I don't think anything ever phases these guys. Like you said, I think they're the most consummate professional team in, I don't want to say history, but it feels like it in recent memory.
Yeah, and I got it. I mean, you definitely need to give like all the players and Kenny Atkinson credit for that stuff. I kind of go back to what we said in the live show on Sunday. Like, I think a lot of it's like the maturation of Donovan Mitchell as a leader and just like kind of bringing these guys along when there is adversity. I know I joked around that he like leads the league in high fives this year, but I'm serious. If you watch him during the game, he's so positive, so encouraging, such a good communicator. And I think it's incredible because Donovan Mitchell, we forget, like he kind of left Utah on bad terms. Like he kind of, without reading too much into it, seemed like they were mutually ready for a divorce. Like he did not like playing for that team or maybe with particular players or for the coach, whatever it was. He like mailed it in defensively his last year or two there in Utah. And now he goes from that to a couple years later, he's like as positive reinforcement of a leader as they have in the league. I mean, honestly, it reminds me, the guy it reminds me of the most is honestly Steph. Like when the Warriors started getting really good and Steph became such a leader. And like Steph is like, as far as, likability in the NBA, Steph's probably number one. If you go around the league, I don't think there's too many people, if anyone, that say a bad word about him. And I think Donovan Mitchell's kind of turning into that kind of leader and kind of guy. And I don't know. I think I think a lot of people will look at stats and say that he's not having as good a season as he's had previously, but I actually think it's his best overall season as like being a winning basketball player.
I love everything you just said because I agree. I think he's becoming the most likable leader in, Cavs history, but just in the league. I fans otherwise, because I know during the championship years and everything like that, none of us could stand Steph Curry. But now that we're not in that situation, like he is a good guy. He's a likable figure, and he's well liked and respected in the league. And I think you're right. I think the maturation of Donovan Mitchell is putting him on that trajectory. Yeah. And hopefully that comes with 4 championship rings.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, I'm sure there's Cavs fans out there that don't like me comparing Donovan Mitchell to Stephen Curry, but it's a pretty damn good comparison. I don't think Donovan Mitchell would have a problem with it. Put it that way.
Not at all.
And yeah, that is one of the things the Cavs. We talked about all the things that need to go right for this Cavs team to have the whole team elevate the way they did from a pretty good to very good team to like a great team that they've been so far this year. And one of the things was somebody kind of taking on that leadership role, especially with like the young guys and kind of driving the cohesiveness of the team and being that connector. And I mean, Mitchell was the best candidate just because he has the highest clout in the league and he's a little bit older than some of the other guys on the team. Not that he's old, but he's just a little bit older than the Garlands and Mobleys and Mitchells and everything. I'm sorry, Garland and Mobley and Allen. But yeah, no, I think he's been awesome at that all year, even when his play is kind of gone. He went through one particularly rough stretch, but now I think he continues to be a great leader, and his play has like stabilized to where he's giving you a pretty high level game every night. Again tonight, I thought he was the best player for the Cavs. You could argue him or Bam being the best player in the game.
Absolutely. Before we hop out of this Heat game and preview the Hornets, I just wanted to shout out the Kevin Love coming back to Rocket Arena. I can't ever remember the name of the arena now because it keeps changing. But coming back, getting a tribute video. This is his first time in Cleveland in 2 years. So it was really awesome to see how well received he was. Obviously part of the championship team and a big piece of that championship team, a third of our podcast name. It was really great to see him well received. The tribute video. He actually had a comment before the game that if he goes into the Basketball Hall of Fame, he wants to go in as a Cavalier, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm super glad that he could take a brief pause from his Instagram meme game to come play in Cleveland, since we hadn't seen him play the last couple of times they played the Heat.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, Kevin Love's he is a great player, great Cavalier from what everybody said. I don't know him, but from everyone says seems to be a great guy. So yeah, I think it was super cool for him to get to play the Cavs tonight and to kind of get into it. And like he was getting kind of upset with the refs and the Cavs, and I think some of the fans like kind of gave him some good natured hazing and everything. So yeah, it was fun to see him out there tonight.
Awesome. Well, let's turn the page ahead to Charlotte. I really don't have much to say about them, man. I mean, personally, I think this might be a game that Kenny pulls back on people and just kind of mails it in. I think the streak could end, honestly, because I think it's just the streak's not important to these guys. Just getting right, getting ready.
I don't know. I don't want it to end at the hands of the Hornets. Like, I can't say anything about the Hornets because, like, every time I say LaMelo Ball's name, we get like our very few nasty online comments. I always seem to spur it up every time I talk about LaMelo Ball. But yeah, I mean, the Hornets are the same as seems like the same as they've always been. They have a few interesting, talented young players, but they haven't put it together as actually having a good team, and it seems like that just like continues forever and ever and ever, and just the names change a little bit. But they have NBA players. They've played the Cavs tough at least one of the times earlier this year, and so yeah, that hopefully I'm not with you. I don't want to see the streak end. I
don't want it to end.
Not against the Hornets. I think it continues in the lucky number 13 on Friday night.
Let me be clear here. I don't want it to end. I like the streak. I like winning. Winning's fun, especially when we get to come on here and talk about winning. But I do see a scenario where Kenny says this game doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. So I'll slightly modify, I guess, or have a slightly modified opinion of yours. I agree with you, except I think that will be Sunday instead of Friday. Like, even if they do scale back a little bit, they beat the Hornets. Sunday night, they play in Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a potential playoff opponent, and that could be a game where Kenny says, you know what, I don't want them to see our whole new lineup and everything. Let's rest a couple of guys. Let's play a little bit more vanilla. So I'm kind of going along with your thinking. I'm just pushing it out one game more than you are.
Understandable. That makes sense.
And Milwaukee's a significally better team than Charlotte.
Well, yeah, they have a way more around, to be honest.
Yes.
That's true. I mean, if you look at the coming lineup, I mean, you really don't see an Eastern Conference team or Eastern Conference playoff team other than Milwaukee. You could Orlando, but we never know what we're getting with Orlando. I don't think Orlando knows what they're providing.
They've had a rough year for sure.
Basically, you don't see an Eastern Conference playoff team until the end of March 28th, when you see the Pistons.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's funny they kind of did this 12-game streak against one of the tougher parts of their schedule.
Yeah.
They some of the games that they've won on this streak, they only lost one game in February. And so they beat Detroit, Minnesota, the Knicks, the Grizzlies, the Celtics, obviously, several really good teams in the league, to where the stretch they actually are in now and have coming up, between just playing the Bulls and the Heat and Portland, kind of, lower seeded teams, now Charlotte's, and they play a lot of other kind of teams in the lower half of the standings in each conference coming up. So I think if you're looking at most likely games that this winning streak would be broken, I think either at Milwaukee Sunday or at Memphis next weekend is probably most likely.
Yeah, I mean, those are really the only two options until
they go on a West Coast
that's
swing.
Really it.
Yeah, well,
really...
they go on a West Coast swing, and they're not all the best teams, but towards middle of March, they have like a 10-day trip out west. It's hard. It's hard to win that many games when you're on that long of a road trip. Though they did do it around the holidays when I said the same thing, and then if I remember correctly, they beat Denver, Golden State, the Lakers, and Dallas all in a row when I said they shouldn't. So I'm gonna
keep doubting. We'll just keep winning.
I'll keep doing that. I would say traditionally in the history of basketball, it's very hard to win every game when you're doing a road trip on the opposite coast of the country. Apparently, not all those rules apply to the Cavs this year, though.
Nothing applies to the Cavs this year. So before we go any longer, we can hop up out of here. We'll be back on Friday for the game against Charlotte. If you haven't already, please take a minute to like, subscribe, give us a 5-star review. That really helps a ton. Comment on anything. We're all on all the socials, any of the videos. We love to interact with fans and just hear what Cavs fans have to say about everything. Go, give a subscription on any platform of podcast of your choice. That goes a long, long way. We'll be back. Thank you again to Blue Wire for helping us, kind of get this running. And Kevin, I'll let you sign us off out of here.
Go Cavs.